Well, hello everybody. This is Alexandra Basfeld, and you're watching the OrganTalk. The video you're about to watch is an interview with Rachel Laurin, Canadian organist and composer, who passed away on this day a year ago. This interview took place on the February 20th of the year 2021, and this is an Instagram interview, so you will see us interacting with the viewers and reading comments, which are not visible anymore. I bring this video back in order to make a little contribution to honoring her memory, and I hope you will enjoy it. Have a great time. Hello everybody, this is Alexandra Bartred, and you're watching the OrganTalk. So, we have an amazing guest today. Today we're horizontal, if you see, because I know that our guest is more comfortable with this kind of dispensation. We will be able to read your comments and your questions. So sometimes I will have to turn my head, but I hope you're okay with that. I'm very, very excited for today, and I know that you are too, because your questions, guys, it was something. Today you went even bigger than yesterday, and I just had no time to share all of them, and there are really deep, serious things to talk about. So I'm very, very excited for today's interview, and I'm just waiting for our amazing guest, Rachel Laurin, to join us, and we have so many things to ask her. I will just check on the list if she's already with us. Now, so we have some time. Guys, very, very well-known compositions of her she wrote for organ. So I'm just curious to know if some of you have already played her music, because I did. And I really enjoyed this experience. So if you have played one of her pieces for organ, please just let me know, write a comment. What did you play? It will be very, very interesting to know what is your relationship with her music, because to have a composer herself here talking to us, it's a really rare experience. We cannot talk to many of the composers, but to have this chance and to ask her from the position of a composer, of an organist, how does she experience that? It's very, very exciting. So I'm just waiting for her, if she's already here. Many of you have been there yesterday when we were rehearsing. Yes, I know. Great, perfect. So we have our amazing guest, Rachel Laurin, already here with us, so I'm going to send an invitation. Will work. Hello. Great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure to be there. Look, the sound is not very good from your side. Is it okay from mine?
Okay, let's ask the viewers, guys, how is the sound? Because for me, you're not very, very strong, and your sound is a bit.
Okay.
Let's talk now. Okay, let's figure it out. It'll be fine. Guys, how is the sound for you from both of us?
Now it sounds good. It's just that the image is freezing a little bit, but I think it's good. Do you see me well?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
It's just freezing a little bit when you talk, like yesterday at the beginning of our meeting.
Okay, I think it will get better, and it will get better and better with time. It's just the connection. I know that there are United States watching, there is Latvia watching, wow, South Africa watching. So I'm so excited to talk to you, and let's say hi to everybody.
Hi everyone, and thank you for the invitation, Alexandra. Hi, I can't see anyone, but I feel the vibes.
Great, amazing. Guys were sending in questions before, and they can ask questions right now too. So God, I still didn't. Maybe it's run away from me. If the sound is okay, please send me a message if there are any problems. Is it okay for you?
It's perfect now.
Okay. Great. Thank you everybody for taking care of this. We have tons of questions, so let's just going because, and I just have to say just once again how happy I am to welcome you here and how honored I am to have you on the episode of the OrganTalk. The very common question we had is when and how did organ and composition came in your life?
Oh, well, it's very easy. I'm born in a small village northwest of Montreal, province of Quebec in Canada, a French-Canadian village. And we lived just in front of the church. And at my church, we had a Casavant organ built in 1897, an old Casavant tracker organ. So it's one of the first opus of Casavant. And my mother, she played the piano. She was my first music teacher. She taught me the piano when I was 9 years old, and she played the organ. She was not an organist, she was more a pianist, not a professional, but she was a very good musician. And so she played the organ every Sunday morning at the church. And when we came back home, we had, it was not CDs in that time, but it was recordings on LPs of Marie-Claire Alain and all great organists of the world. And it was organ music during Sunday. So in the whole house on recordings. So that's how I always loved the organ. But I just knew Bach's music and, early organ music. And then when I went to college, I was 17 and I had the organ as a second instrument. I chosen the piano first and then the organ, second instrument. And I fell in love with the organ when I discovered Viern's music, Widor symphonies, Vierne symphonies, and Guillemot, and all this French symphonic music, and the German romantic. So I was 17 when I really understood that what I wanted to do in life was centered around the organ.
Oh, amazing. And actually, we have discussed quite a lot here at the OrganTalk. What is your opinion? You came from the piano to the organ. Do you think it's important for the organist, for young organists, to start with the piano?
It's a good question. I always thought so because there is a lot and more repertoire at the organ that demands good piano technique. But I just discovered a few years ago, because I have a young student. He is a 6-year-old, and his parents at my church asked me, he loved the organ, do you want to teach him? And I said to them, well, it's a little bit young, 6, because he has to read music to the piano before. And then I discovered that my publisher, Wayne Leopold, has published a method, Discover the Basics, teaching piano, organ, and every keyboard in one book, and so it's gradated, and gradually the student is learning to read music with 2 lines, with 3 lines, and intervals, and then at some point they have the complete staff. It's a very good method. And then finally they proved to me just recently that we can begin by learning the organ, but we absolutely need to have piano technique beside during our early studies, but we can learn music with the organ first. But technically, for the fingers, I think we need to do piano technique beside that.
Oh, this is very interesting to know about this method, which
Yeah, everyone, if you want to look, but it's not. I discovered it 2 years ago, but it exists since 20 years. So just go to visit WayneLeopold.com, and you will discover the basics. You have discovered the organ, and after you have gradual, easy to difficult music in many books written especially for the organ. And then he has contemporary composer, me included, writing for these books now.
Oh, wow. So this is a series which is ongoing right now.
Yeah, it's very interesting because Wayne Leopold told me, I looked for that. I looked at it, and I never found any organ method for beginners. We have a lot for the piano, But I think he's right. I think it's the first one for the organ. But still, answering your question, everyone, I think to play the piano is an important asset if you want to become a concert organist.
There is a very nice comment from Tatiana, who is the pipe organ builder. She asked, how big is the pressure of composing something new, something that has never been played? How big is the pressure of being a composer?
Could you repeat the beginning of the question?
How big is the pressure of composing something new?
Oh, it's fascinating. It's just a pleasure. Of course, it's a little bit stressing because it's always, I write more and more on commissions. Since about 5 years, I have almost exclusively commissions to write for, except some exceptions. But it's so different when you receive a commission. It's so personal. Every commissioner has different reasons for the commission, different projects for the premiere, different requests. And for me, it makes so much sense with why I'm a composer. It's to get connected to people of my time. It's not to get performed in a century. Yes, I'm happy to know if someone promised me your music is going to be played in 1 century, I will be happy to know it. But the pleasure of composing is to get in touch and connection with performers and music lovers, just people who love to hear music as well, of my time. So when I have a commission, the beginning of the piece, the beginning of composition, I need to have many informations. How long do you want the piece? How many movements? What for? To be what degree of difficulty? Very virtuoso concert music or liturgical music? And the event is going to be is it in memory of someone? Then you have to know the person you write for in memory, so you need so much details at first. And then, of course, the white music page, the white music sheet is always a little bit, you have vertigo, when you arrive and, oh my God, too many choices. In fact, it's very funny, but sometimes we prefer to have less choices than, do whatever you want. Yeah, so you need really to be in a specific mood. But for me, it's not pressure. At the end of the day, for me, it's a lot of pleasure.
It's great. We had a question from one of our viewers, from Johnny White, who had a very interesting question. Do we have to ask a composer before performing a piece?
Before performing a piece? No, you don't have to ask. But with all the communications today, I'm so happy when someone is writing to me by messenger on my website, or I'm going to play your music. I love to work on it. And coming from people I don't know, it's very rewarding for me, because I just feel that I do this for someone. I do this for people I don't know, and they enjoy all over the world. So you're not requested to ask before you perform one of my piece or one piece of a new piece of a composer. But it's always a pleasure to know it for the composer and to get in touch with performer and to know. And people don't have to ask neither how to play your music. When
this was the next question. Yes.
Oh yeah, really. So they don't have to ask. How. It's always, you can ask for details, because one thing that is more pressure for me in composition is when time comes to write indications, dynamics, tempi, nuances. I'm always then I don't like doing that, because if you say too much, so performers will think that they have to follow that exactly. If you don't write enough, sometimes people will play tempi that it doesn't make sense. Sometimes it happens that I think, my God, it's not at all what I conceived. But some more of the time, when performers do creation with my music, I love it. I'm happy. So if it can, you have to get the space of a composer. You have to do as if you composed it yourself in a way. So yeah, you of course, sometimes people can need explanations, because even me, when I hear a piece of mine that I didn't hear for maybe 10 years, sometimes I'm just wondering what it meant, what it wanted to say, and I have to get back to track, to understand my own music. So it's normal that people have questions to ask too.
It actually just made me think about Duroflé, who at the end of his She content sur un homme de Jana, he wrote, it's the first edition he wrote Accelerando at the end, and for the second edition he erased it because he felt that people are doing too much of it.
Yes, exactly. So I'm thinking exactly the same. In a lot of my pieces, I wrote something, and I thought that it was kind of natural, and then I hear sometimes in concert, and I think, okay, maybe I shouldn't have written this there. Sometimes you have, sometimes not. And people sometimes they ask you, you wrote this ritinato on bar 28. Can I do this just at bar 29? And of course, it's not a question, of, it's not like that. Music can be so personal as well. And even me, when I learn my music, I change my mind. I don't follow what is in the score most of the time.
Okay, I think it's actually also because we are a bit of classical musicians. We are a bit of kids of the competitions, and it's requested to do things on point, do the things correctly. So
if I was as a judge in a competition, for example, and my music would be played, and I would have to judge it, and it happened. Most of the time, when someone gets out of the score, I give more points. I just give that cue to people who are doing competition with my music. So if someone takes initiative, do you say that in English? If someone, takes responsibility and has imagination, and I heard many great virtuoso performers changing the registrations I wrote, and it was more beautiful than what I wrote. So I'm very open to that, of course. And don't people think, we have to respect, quoting, to respect the composer's will. But I think the respect for a composer is to be passionate about the music you play. That's, for me, the greatest respect towards my music.
Oh, thank you so much for saying this. Thank you so much. I will just remind to you guys that you can ask your questions and send your comments right here. Even if we are horizontal, I will read them out loud, and everything will be fine. So we're reading everything. So go on and ask your questions, because I have so many of them. But you don't feel shy. Talking about the performance, there were many questions about the organ traditions of performing in Canada, and there was one question about how in Europe, I would say right now, this is a historically informed performance, which is in all the top of tradition of performing nowadays. How are the things in Canada?
Oh, I think it's the same as all over the world, where organ is a lot practiced. In Canada, in the French Canada, in Montreal particularly, there was a movement in the 1950s about the return of the early organs and tracker organs. And so we had Rudolf von Beckerath, who was commissioned three organs in a row in Montreal, among others, the big Saint Joseph's Oratory, 5 manual, 78 stop organ. And in 1960, and I had been associate organist at Saint Joseph's Oratory because my teacher, Raymond Daveluy, was organist there, and he was my composition teacher, organ teacher. So he was one of the promoters of the return of the early tradition in the organ building. And Casavant, there was a kind of conflicts between this movement and Casavant organ builders, who were just used, to build kind of English tradition organs with choir instead of positive, etc. And so finally, during the years and in the 1980s, the movements developed to be more of eclectic. organ building. We have a lot of organ builder, particularly in French Canada. In the province of Quebec, we have Casavant, we have Letourneau, Fernand Letourneau organ. We have in Montreal a young organ builder, Juget Sinclair, who is going in Europe now more and more. And still Casavant is building a lot of organ. And all these organ builders has different approaches, but still they do what they are commissioned for also. And so in organ performance, I will say that with this organ building tracker organs, then organists in the 1950s, they came back to the early music playing, the tradition of articulations and things like that. And a lot of organists went to Europe to study this kind of tradition. But now I can see that we have all schools are mixed and it's very eclectic. It's very varied. We have some organists who are still really apostles of, playing music by Bach as if it was played in the time of Bach. Personally, I'm more of a polyvalent musician approach. I want that we play Bach's music with the approach of today because we have so many different organs where Bach's music is sounding beautifully. And the same for César Franck's music. We cannot play César Franck all the time as if we were at St. Clotilde organ because it's not the same sound. We have to mix the sound. But one organist needs to know, of course, the tradition, to know how it was done at this time in order to be able to adapt to our time and to personalize with who you are, how you will perform this music.
Thank you so much for saying this.
I talk a lot. I think
no, you're welcome. You're here to do this. We have a very good question now running. What will be your advice, or the most important advice for a novice composer?
For a beginner composer?
Yes.
A novice. Okay. Well, it depends of... I have different advices to different persons. If you are shy to compose, I will advise you not to be shy to compose. And I will advise everyone, particularly young musicians who want to do composition and who already play an instrument, you don't want to be a genius. When you compose, you have to pass by different steps of training. It's not composition, it's something you learn. It's not something that you have or you have not. It's the same as improvisation. Every musician is supposed to be able to compose and to have the training for this. Every musician is supposed to be able to improvise, but one may feel really compelled, as I felt when I was 15, 16 years old. I felt truly compelled through composition. I was drawing also. I was compelled to create. And then I would say, when you begin to compose, just try to learn something. Of course, you will find your voice. Don't try to compose in your own style when you begin. It's impossible. You will imitate styles when you begin to compose. If you don't pass through these different steps, you will be distracted in the learning of the. Composition is a very disciplined art. You have to be disciplined. So my advice is be modest, keep simple in the approach, and try to say something, yes, but with a good technique. You have to acquire a very good technique, a writing technique. If you don't pass through this apprentissage, this learning, then you will be a composer, but after you have commission, you are asked, you won't be able to do this or that. You will specialize always in the same thing. So you have to open your mind to different techniques and language. Also, I will advise every young musician who wants to do composition to play a music instrument. To compose, you need to be able to express yourself at an instrument as well. It will be like writing theater play. I think that you need to be an actor if you want to write theater play. You need to begin by playing. And so to be close to performers, to know what it needs, what it demands to play music, to perform music, it will develop your creativity, and it will develop also your understanding of the musician who has to play every note you write. So you have to be very understanding and very comprehensive about that. I would have a ton of advices to give, but if you had more specific questions, I would be pleased to answer as well.
So guys, if you have more specific questions on composition, don't hesitate to ask, because I think we have just so many amazing answers. We'll have taken advantage from that and take the chance to get them. There were, in the comments and even previously, there are many questions about you as a composer, which there are people who ask who did influence you stylistically, and even do you consider yourself a romantic composer?
Oh, that's a tough question. Influences all my, I began, my first instrument was the piano. So when I began to have composition lessons with Raymond Davelby, we were composing for the piano, short pieces for the piano. And after, he had me composing for choir because he wanted to give me technique. And it's very interesting to write horizontally and vertically when you write for choir. But at the piano, I was influenced deeply by Rachmaninoff. So you are from Russia. And Rachmaninoff, I think, was the composer who attracted me the most to do my self-composition. When I heard his piano music, I wanted to compose. Not to do like him, but I felt that, I would love so much to write music as beautiful as that. And so Rachmaninoff, of course, after the years, I discovered Scriabin, Alexander Scriabin as well, that I loved his music. And of course, all the piano music composers, French. At the organ, I was influenced when I began to compose for the organ by Louis Vian's music. Why? Because I was just discovering, I was learning, I was a beginner at the organ when I began to compose for the organ. So my music became more difficult as I was able to play more difficult music. But Louis Vian, I began to learn pièces en style libre, pieces in freestyle. The 24 pieces in freestyle. And I love this music. And I wanted to learn to write in this language. And then my first organ pieces, I think, sound a little bit, not just a little bit, they sound quite influenced by Vian's. And after that, I discovered Anton Bruckner's symphonies at the orchestra. And I fell in love with Anton Bruckner. Every composition, every note he wrote, I'm in love with Bruckner. So I think that when I began to compose bigger music for the organ, I had a kind of the big breath. I wanted to give big amplitude. Do you say that in English? Big breath to my music. And I was influenced a little bit by Bruckner. It's funny enough. And after, of course, Richard Strauss, symphonic music influenced me in the way of describing an action, like his Till Eulenspiegel, the stone poem. I found it so fantastic. Don Juan, Don Giovanni by Richard Strauss. And so when I write nowadays for the organ and I write a tone poem, sometimes I feel that I have some even melodic maybe influences. But at the end, finally, also I love the Shostakovich. So at the end, I think that it's a mix of everything. And I admire a lot, the structure of Joseph Haydn piano sonatas, for example, and the 32 Beethoven piano sonatas. It's fascinating just to analyze the structure. And my teacher was insisting a lot on the structure of my pieces when I compose, the great rhythm, the medium rhythm, and all of this. So I always think of Joseph Haydn's sonata when I do a structure. Is it well proportioned? And when you are, the development particularly are fascinating. So you see, I'm sure I forgot some composers, but I influenced just by everyone.
That's just like the Haydn sonata where he grows. Sometimes it has only one theme, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just bursts out.
It's
It's
melodic and rhythmic development. And after Beethoven followed this path, you can see the first Beethoven sonatas, they sound influenced by Haydn. And it's obvious that, and after, of course, I don't mean that we have to follow always the classical structure in the form, sonata form. I love to do sonatas with 3 themes instead of just 2, but the development and how to mix the themes, how to make them interfere and dialogue, that's all. All these great composers are really great inspirations to me.
Just to share from myself, because through the first lockdown, I've been holding on your Etude Heroique to keep me working, because I had only electric digital keyboard and a pedal keyboard, MIDI pedal to play, and I practiced Etude Heroique, and I saw and said, it makes me think of Rachmaninoff so much.
Oh, really? I'm happy to see that. It's very strange, because when I began to write for the organ, I was really worried because my piano technique was better than my organ technique. And when I began to write for the organ, I thought, it doesn't sound like my piano music. How is it? It's like 2 persons writing for 2 different instruments. And then I was just worried that I wouldn't be myself when writing for the organ. And so I'm very happy that you say to me that, many years after, I still have this influence of Rachmaninoff. It means that I'm still myself.
Exactly.
Also, I forgot to tell, the Etude Heroique is an example at the manual technique that I am influenced also by Franz Liszt piano music, because the octaves, he has a lot of tricks of things that sometimes it's really difficult, but sometimes it sounds difficult and it's easier than it sounds. And so this kind of alternation between both hands in octaves, and then going up like that. So I have that at the end. I do that in the Etude Heroique at the end. And it's Franz Liszt tricks.
We actually have someone mentioning Etude Heroique just right now in the comments, who mentioned your famous pedal solo of the Etude Heroique, and he asked, how did you work on your pedal technique?
Oh, you mean not this pedal solo, but my pedal technique as a performer?
Yes, because it's so this pedal solo is famous amongst the organists, because we have to.
It's the first time I hear about this. But look, I will confess something. When I was a teenager, I loved to do skating, in Canada, in my area of the country. And I love it. I wanted to be a speed skater. But I was in a small village, and, I didn't have any chance to do a professional sport. But anyway, at the organ, when I was a pianist, and when I arrived at the organ, the pedal was a big problem for me, and particularly the independence of hands and feet. And so it took me a long time before feeling, I was playing trios and things like that, but before feeling comfortable at the instrument, at the organ, with the pedal technique, it took me a long time. And then I think this etude is a kind of testimony of what for me is an ideal organist, is a concert organist, of course, is someone who has a good manual technique and a good pedal technique. And so you need to have independence between both. And also, this this pedal solo in the Etude Heroic was meant to be not difficult for the sake of being difficult, but for me, I was learning something when I was composing that, I was thinking, okay, when I will have finished this piece and I will learn the piece, I will still learn something when I will play my music. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit of, my pedal technique, I learned it, principally I developed it by playing Vienn's symphonies, I think. And for me, I think that because it requires independence with the hands, and also it requires some velocity. And when I did my final exam at the Montreal Conservatory, I decided to do the complete sixth Vienne symphony. And I think it has never been before that performed as a whole in Montreal. It was kind of, it was very rare in a way. And so the final was a good test for my fiddle technique, and I learned a lot. So, but it's always work in progress. I think the organ is always an instrument that we learn a lot each time we play the organ.
Absolutely. And each time we play a different organ, we learn even more.
Exactly. For me to adapt from a straight pedal board to a concave and radiant and all these differences, for me was a big deal when I was a student.
And talking about going from one organ to another, and also from one country to another, for your performances, how do you adapt the programs if you go from playing overseas or in different countries or in different cities?
Well, of course, that's my main problem as an organist, is that I always need different programs for each concert because each time the organ is so different. In fact, you need to know the specificities of the instrument before you decide what you're going to play, because I don't like to have bad surprises. It happened once that I played an organ in the United States, and I thought really that it was a romantic, and I don't know why I didn't receive the composition, the specifications before I did my program. And then I was to play the Dupré Prelude and Fugue in A flat major, Opus 36. And then it was impossible on that organ, so I had to change and finally play the Chromatic Fantasy by Bach that I transcribed. But usually I try to adapt, and I love to play Buxtehude music. I'm not a specialist of Vienne, specialist of Franck, or specialist of just Rachel Laurin's music. I like to play Buxtehude, Bach, Rheinberger, Romantic, German, French, symphonic, everything. So if I ask to play on a tracker 2 manual, of course, I will play music. If I play modern music, it would be music that is adaptable to this instrument. But I always ask, is there a sequencer? Are there some memory levels, harmonies, and things like that? I hate to have a concert where there are a lot of changes and where you depend on two assistants, one each side. And I prefer to do everything myself whenever it's possible. So you have to be cautious and to have the complete specifications of the organ before you make the program.
Of course, absolutely. Not to be surprised by anything, especially by compass or the keyboard on public.
Yes, and of course, I need a lot of time to prepare my concert. I'm not the kind of organist who arrives in 3 hours and I'm done. I can do the concert. I arrive many days before, and I like to take my time with the sounds of the organ. It's not only to get used to the console, it's to get used to the sounds of the organ and to choose my registration. I love to use every stop of the instrument. I don't like to do, standards registration, and you arrive and you go fast and you do the same and you go by the name of the stops. It's not my way. I prefer really to go with the sound and to get impregnated by the sound of the venues where you play, the acoustics and everything. And so my first approach to a new organ is always a battle against the instrument. And then when I arrived to the concert, and I had many days with the instrument, and we talked, and we know each other, then it's a love story for the concert.
We have a very interesting question. We have many questions. I'm just not able to ask everything at the same time, guys. Sorry, one by one. First question was, how do you transcribe for the organ? Is there a methodical approach for transcription?
No, not for me. I'm not a specialist of transcription, but I transcribed the Liszt sonata, the piano sonata,
Yes.
because I thought it was an orchestral work for the piano. And I thought it will win if it has orchestral sounds for some specific themes and things like that. Even if it's really idiomatic for the piano. When I transcribed the Brahms variations on a Handel theme, Opus 24, these Brahms variations, piano music by Brahms, most of the time is massive. It's very, it's kind of a block. You know, Brahms is a romantic, but his music is like organ music. I mean, you have clans and you have, so the variation on a theme by Handel were very easy in a way for me to transcribe, because we hear already the sounds of the organ. You hear when there is a fanfare, of course you will have the reeds, and when so it was difficult for some arpeggios passages in the Brahms, how I'm going to do that. And I confess that I did my best, and maybe not ideal solution, but also just the theme at the beginning, it was obvious for me that it was a solo, a little reed or a little Nazar accompanied. Sometimes it's obvious, but I take and I transcribe also the Bach Fantasy and Fugue, Chromatic Fantasy and Fugue, because I thought that it was a Reger piece. I don't think it's from Bach. I think it's from Max Reger. So, and I decided to do, when it's getting bigger and bigger, the fugue, even if it's a 3-part fugue, this chromatic fugue by Bach, I just, at the end, I play an octave and I do a kind of list, a texture, and then after I did this transcription, I just discovered that Reger did the transcription of the Bach Chromatic Fantasy. And I thought, I'm going to do a Reger Fantasy in fugue with this piece at the organ. And then Reger did his own transcription, and it was just note by note. It just put the bass of the pedal, and it's in trio all the time in the fugue. And I thought, well, mine is more Reger than his. So, but answering your question, guys, personally, I don't think that transcribing a masterpiece of the orchestra like Ravel's music. Ravel was such an orchestrator, and the same with Rimsky-Korsakov, and they were such orchestrators that I think it's a waste of time to transcribe this kind of genial music to the organ. I prefer to compose new music because it means that we need repertoire for the organ. At the same time, I understand that we want to have people who don't know the organ being attracted by playing nutcrackers, for example, the Tchaikovsky ballet, things like that. I understand the principle, but musically, I think it's a little bit a waste of time to do too many orchestral transcription. If you have a piano piece that sounds orchestral, then it will be transcribable for the organ, and we will win doing that. But otherwise, I'm not sure.
Actually, very important question. We've been discussing a lot on the OrganTalk, how to attract people to the organ, or how to make organ attractive to people. We always end up as the answer that it's repertoire, which might be a key.
What is the end of your question? The end of what you said?
We always tend to have an answer that it's a repertoire,
okay.
Which people.
Look, it's very strange. I think that, of course, there is some organ repertoire that is very dry, of course, or very austere. I mean, dry is maybe too negative. But even Bach's music, it's very austere sometimes. If you play the art of fugue, it's wonderful. I'm in love with that music. But for ordinary music lover, it can be dry a little bit. So the repertoire, but also the approach. When we go to some organ concerts and you feel people are looking at you, and if you move or if you do something, it was like that in the 1980s. It changed. I know that it changed, but still, some concert series are very judgmental. People, if you feel that someone is not used to come to organ concerts, you judge these people and they don't behave like, you have to be welcoming in your behavior. The other thing is that now with the screen and with the cameras, we can do so much, because one thing that was not appealing for concert performance was that we don't see the musician. For me, a concert is a performance, and for me, a concert is a show too. It's not only music. People, if they want to hear music, they can stay in their living room and they can have a beer or a glass of wine and listen to music. So it's a show at the same. It's communication with an artist, with many artists. So we need to see the organist playing, and now we can do it with a screen and with cameras, and it's a very good idea. The other thing is that the program, we need to do some a variety in the program, to introduce new music, to play well-known music, and to introduce music like, who knows sonatas by Joseph Reinberger, for example, just organist. If you ask someone, do you know Joseph Reinberger's organ sonatas? Do you know that he wrote 20 sonatas? They will say, oh, maybe I know the G major once, I heard that in concert, but apart from that. So we need to educate the audience, but also to let people a chance to discover the organ by the variety of the repertoire and of the sounds. If you play with the plenum during 1 hour in a concert, you will lose half of the people. They won't come to another organ concert. So you need really to be appealing, but to do what you feel. I don't mean that you have absolutely to play music you don't like just to please the audience, but you have to be passionate, you have to be welcoming, and you have to live the music you are playing, and to make people discover the thousands of sounds that the organ can do.
Thank you so much. I've been writing down your words. I think it's a very good recipe for all of us. There is a question. I will take him first because I think we don't have that much time left, so I will go fast on the questions. But I think this one is very important for someone who is asking. Wait, it's going away from me. Any advice for composing for open competition with no specific criteria?
Okay, just repeat the question.
An advice for composing for an open competition with no specific criteria.
Oh, it's very difficult. I would advise, it's a random draw. If I was involved in a composition competition, one recently with the Pogorzelsky Yankee competition by the AGO in United States, the American Guild of Organists. I did this competition 3 times before I won this year, and I didn't want to do that anymore, because for me, if you just have to present a project, how is it going to be judged? I mean, you just do whatever you think. Just introduce your project. If you are asked to introduce a commission proposal, just introduce what you want to do. And in your mind, just think that it's like to put a number in a box, and that the jury is going to just draw a number. Just, you have to be mindset that it's not the quality of the project who is going to be judged, it's a random draw. If you present a piece, if they ask you to present a prelude and fugue, and everyone is going to be judged on the prelude and fugue structure, then you have more chances because you know what you do, and if you present something and everyone's going to be judged on that. But how can you be judged on a project, on a proposal as large as that? I think it's the feeling of the jury, the feeling of the moment, and it may be that you just arrive at the good time, at the good moment. I think it's my answer. So my advice is propose whatever you feel is something you will be passionate to do, and then what will happen will happen.
Thank you so much.
I hope it helps.
It's true that it's so, as you said at the very beginning, that when you have many possibilities, it's so hard to even to start.
Exactly that. It's if you don't have a frame, it's very difficult, and I think it's difficult for the jury as well. If I was to judge a competition where we just accept any proposals and where I would be very, very embarrassed to choose something. I would find many, many good proposals. Hesitate a lot.
Yeah, sure. It's a pressure, of course, of the competition. It's so different from a performing competition.
Yes, of course. And I think that you have another advice I will have to give to this person who asked this is to be well prepared organize well your proposal. So it has to be structured, and you have to look convinced by your idea that you propose. I think it's a good advice that if you are convinced and if you are really passionate about doing this project you are offering, then I think the jury can see. So if it's presented clearly, it's conceived clearly, and your presentation is well structured, and you can prove that you can do that by your precedent works, I think that you have chances.
Thank you. In name of this person, thank you so much for your answer. I really hope it will help. I'm sure it will give some inspiration. There is a very complicated question, which I personally wouldn't have any answers to. What are your thoughts on different scoring systems? For example, the Chinese numerical system or alphabetical system.
Okay, I missed one word in your question, so can you repeat just the beginning?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on different scoring systems? For example, the Chinese numerical system or alphabetical system?
Oh, you mean for like the preluded fugue and the name of Ale, and on the name on letters? Is that it?
No, I think it's the different kinds of notations. Like notation not with the notes, but with the letters or numbers.
Okay, I think that music has to be written in a universal. I remember in the 1980s, I don't know if it would be well related to the question, when I'm member of the Keynesian Music Center and I go to print my music. It's an association and we are members. And sometimes during they do copies of my music, I was looking at the scores of composers, and sometimes you had to read 4 pages of explanation of the codes and the signs in the score in order to be able to play the music in this score. So it was contemporary techniques and all kinds of things. So I think that music has to be written in a universal language for the eyes and for the ears. So I think that, but what is the system? By Chinese, they have a different system. They don't use necessarily Western music system. Is that it? So you see, some people, they learn to read Buxtehude. I don't know in English what you say, tablatura,
Yes.
So it was transcribed. But now, in order to play Buxtehude, you read modern music. And I think that music notations should be universal if the composers want to be performed. That's my deep opinion.
And I will just want to use, we have 5 minutes left to talk about something just coming out from your answer. We have such a big variety of contemporary music styles. We have new complexity, we have minimalistic music, we have so many different approaches. How do you think what should we do better to share the contemporary music with the audience?
It's difficult to say. Even sometimes I don't understand exactly why people like my music or not, It's difficult for me to decode that aspect. I think that music needs to be easy to understand, but at the same time, it needs to be challenging so that each time, I mean for the listener, it has to be approachable and challenging. If it's just approachable and you discovered everything the first time, then you won't listen to this more than 2-3 times and you will be completely tired. If it's you understand nothing the first time, you're not going to understand anything the second time. You need to understand something and have always something new to discover in this music. So it has to be refined in a way that it expresses the deep human being and deep emotions of human being, but also in a language that that can be discovered gradually also. So I think that even minimalistic music, we think it's repetitive, but it's never such repetitive that you can the first time understand everything who is happening there. So I think that music needs to be discovered each time you're listening to it. Each time I listen to a Bruckner symphony, I discovered a new thing. I discovered a new chords, new harmonies, new melodic similarity, new reverse of the theme and things like that. So I think that contemporary music has to be connected to people of today. Not saying we write for people or tomorrow of tomorrow. We write to express what we live now and to express this to people who live now. And so far, so good. If my music and our composer's music is keeping alive in 2,000 years, I will be so happy. But who cares? Who minds? It's important now that people share my music, that they understand what I mean, that they understand the emotions I want to express through my music, and the performer the same. So I think that it can be in different languages. Once again, there is not one kind of music that will win and that will represent the organ better than. I think it's all in the variety of personalities and of languages and of colors and of harmonies and melodic, expression that it will come.
Thank you so much. At this point, we have just about 2 minutes left. I just have to say thank you so much for taking. Merci, madame, d'avoir pris votre temps et d'être venue nous parler. Thank you so much. It's an absolute honor to have you here and to get the chance to talk to you.
Thank you so much for the invitation. And I hope everyone just go on my website if you want to ask me more questions. And it will be a pleasure to answer. And thank you for visiting today and for attending, and thank you for your question and your interest. It was a great pleasure for me.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much. You've been amazing. I'm sorry we couldn't take all the questions I have written. Also, how many.
You have to invite me again.
We have to meet you again. It was a big pleasure, and it was just fulfilling and such a joyful experience to talk to you. Thank you so much. And I wish you a great day. We have already late evening here in France, and hope to see you next time.
Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you very much. Keep in touch.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.